Let this sink in for a moment. The lack of financial education cost Americans $450 billion in 2021. 78% of American homeowners are living paycheck to paycheck. And right now, most American homeowners are equity rich and cash poor. That's another word for broke. The media isn't helping you. Schools aren't helping you. And the government for sure isn't going to save you. As a top 1% mortgage professional and seasoned investor, I cannot sit around and watch these life-changing skills that I've learned outside of traditional schooling be unused, untaught, and thrown in the trash can. So until these statistics change, I'll be here every single week, preaching and teaching personal and professional finance, information that you can use in your life, however that looks, whether you are 16 or 60. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of the Happy Homeowner Podcast. I am so excited to talk about buyers today, and I could not think of a better buyer's broker, a buyer's real estate agent than Tyler Morgan with Compass. Tyler, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're going to have a good time today, and this one's going to be short, and this is going to be very, very value-driven. If you are a buyer or you're thinking about buying real estate in the next, I would say let's just say 3 to 12 months, you're going to want to listen up to this. Tyler and I are going to share some tips that every home buyer needs to understand. We're going to talk about data. We're going to talk about emotions, because if you're buying a home and you're not prepped to be on an emotional roller coaster, then you're being misinformed, because you will experience emotions, a lot of them, especially in this market. And then we're going to really talk a lot about perspective today. No, we're not in a buyer's market, but the buyer's market today is not the buyer's market that we saw in 2020 and 21. And that is going to present some opportunities. So let's just jump right in right now. If you're working with a buyer right now, how do you typically start out? Buyer calls you up and says, hey, Tyler, I got referred you from a really good friend of mine that bought a home with you, said they had a great first-time home buyer experience with you. I'd love to talk with you more about buying a home this year. How do you start off working with a first-time home buyer?
Well, first, I thank them for reaching out to me based on that referral. That's the lifeblood of my business, so I'm always very grateful in the first iteration of meeting somebody. But then secondly, I go through what I call a needs and a wants list, right? And this is something that kind of helps people clarify exactly what they need in their next home. And this is something where it's non-negotiable. Look, you need a yard because you have 4 dogs. That is a non-negotiable item. You cannot get into a condo, right? Yeah. Something like a want. It would be great to have a gazebo in the backyard, but we can live without it, right? So things like that, and those are extremes, but needs versus wants is the big starting.
So what are some needs so here's what I've seen over 16 years as a mortgage professional, and I still specialize. I absolutely love working with first-time home buyers. One of the things that I've realized over 16 years is first-time home buyers don't always know what they need. Yeah. They know what they want, the hot tub, for sure. They know they want the Tesla, but relative to a home, what are some needs? How can we help maybe a first-time home buyer that's listening today really kind of hone in on needs relative to their first home? Remember, your first home is never your forever home. Yeah. Your first home is your first home, and your first home is there to, 1, get you into the game, and number 2, to be a stepping stone to buy more real estate or your next home. Okay, so remember that. Your first home is not your forever home. But what's your best advice on some basic needs that first-time home buyers should consider?
So basic needs, how much space do you need, right? Is it only you? Is it you and a family? How much space do you need for your family to comfortably live? And the second thing is, what is driving you to want to purchase a home? That is a need right there. From your first thought, if you can go back and remember why you thought it might be a good idea to buy a house, that's the why that I want to know, and that's the biggest need that I can find with somebody. And again, that varies with every person, right? So it's different for everybody.
I love that. It's funny. I do the same thing when someone calls me. A lot of the times, a lot of my business comes from people like you, real estate agents going, hey, I know you want to buy a home, but it starts with getting your financing in order. Call my guy. And so when I have that brand new phone call with someone, and after I talk about how great Tyler is, their agent and everything that sent them over and all that good stuff, I always say, so why do you want to buy a home? It's literally one of my first questions. Tell me why you want to buy a home. What do you mean? Well, tell me why. Like, why do you want to buy your first home right now in this market? Why? Yep. What is driving that decision? Now, I'm the money guy. Yep. So most of the time for me is I'm tired of paying rent. I'm tired of making my landlord rich. I'm tired of throwing my money away. I need a bigger place, stuff like that. We've outgrown our apartment or hey, my partner's pregnant, stuff like that. So
sometimes if I can just add in, like recently I had a conversation with somebody and I asked them the same question, why do you want to buy a home, or why is now the right time to buy a home? And the biggest need came from, look, my family's been saying that I can't do it for so long, and now I'm in a position where I can, and I'm ready to do things for myself. Yeah. And so that, to me, that is a motivated need, and that's someone I can really make a difference with and help them.
Love that. Yeah. Some of the other things I hear, schools, location of work. We see this a lot on the east side, and then specific to Seattle as well, location to their job, because, hey, COVID is over, right? The whole working from home. I saw Amazon the other day said that they're requiring, a minimum of 3 days back.
3 days on the hybrid now.
Yep. So we're back in office. You hit on it, space, bedrooms, but I really love what you said. Drive. What is driving you to purchase your first home? As far as, okay, so client calls you up. You do that. You kind of have that initial phone call. What's next?
So next, then I'm going to refer you to a lender if you haven't been referred to one yet, because the most important thing, other than finding out why you want something, is finding out how you're going to get it, right? And with real estate, the only way typically that I've ever found is to buy it, right? So it's not many handshake deals going on these days.
Or trades.
Yeah, or trades. 1031 is another conversation. So I'm referring him to a lender, getting them set up in the right hands. And this is going to be people that I trust, someone that I connect with, and someone that's going to provide the same kind of service that I could offer my clients.
Side note, because I am a lender and I've had the opportunity to work with you, what's important when you're working with buyers? What's important? And this is, hey, so if you're watching this online and let's say you're in another state or you don't use Tyler and you don't use me to purchase, this is obviously we'd love if you used us because this is what we do for a living. But what's some good advice for someone listening to this to look for in a lender? Okay, so they've met with you. You understand what your job is. You understand what they're looking for. You're either going to pay cash for the home, which most first-time home buyers aren't. You're going to finance it. Cool, we're financing it. You're going to recommend them to a lender. But what should people look for? What are the most valuable things in a lender that you like to work for or work with or recommend?
So value to me, and again, everyone's different subjectively, but valuation to me from a lending standpoint comes from somebody that you know, like, and trust, and someone that you can trust is going to go to bat for you. So from the pre-approval stage all the way through the transaction, you and I both have seen hairy transactions go down, and during the time of when you're pending to closing, there comes a lot of times where a lender needs to step in or the agent needs to step in and do some really groundwork to keep it, move in the right direction. So that's what I would say. Okay,
what else? What else is important in a lender? So grit and being able to fight for that loan, understand the loan programs, but understanding that every loan does not go smoothly. I mean, there's things that, as a lender, that are out of our control, like appraisers, for example, like sellers. Like sometimes the sellers just decide to go out of town or pass away, or there's so many things. And us as a lender, we have the keys. We hold the keys to the kingdom. We have the money. And so we are managing all these multiple things. So making sure that a lender that you're working with can do that. Number two, what's another important thing in working with a mortgage lender?
I kind of hit on it, but trust. Trust somebody because you're going to let them into your financial world, right? You're going to have to divulge all the information about your finances, about where you're spending money, about the money that you have in reserves, right? So someone you can trust completely with that information, and someone who's not going to take anything that you give them lightly.
I love that. That's great advice. Okay, so client comes to you. You kind of do an initial conversation with them. You understand what their motives are, their goals are. You've recommended them to a mortgage professional. They're now pre-approved. Okay, now I'm going to jump in here and say Tyler can do a great job with a pre-approval. Tyler can do an incredible job with a client that's been fully underwritten approved, meaning he can negotiate a little bit better for you. The transaction tends to go a lot more smoother. You can close it a little bit more quickly, stuff like that. So let's take it to, I'm going to add in there, one of the things that you should be looking for is a lender that can get you fully underwritten approved versus just being pre-approved. So client comes back to you, hey, Tyler, I went over, I talked to Dan Keller, fully underwritten approved with Dan. We're ready to shop. We're pre-approved for $850 with 10% down. What's next?
So this is when it gets exciting. This is when I get excited about what I do, because when I have a buyer that's fully underwritten and pre-approved, we're shopping now. We are seriously shopping in every house that we go into. Let me back up. Before that, I'm going to send you a list of homes in your criteria that will work for you, and then it's up to your job to sift through them and then connect with me over the ones you want to see in person. Every house that we go see in person, Dan, is one that we are going to attack. So I will have had a conversation with each of the listing agents that we go see. I will know why the seller is selling. I'll try to find out data about, what they've done to the house, any upgrades that have been recent, any upgrades that were 10 years ago. Because I know that you like that house, I'm trying to get as much information as I possibly can about it.
Yeah. I love that. All right, so you're touring homes.
Yeah.
We find the right home. Now it comes down to negotiating. Yep. And I know this is one of your strong suits. So any tips to first-time home buyers in regards to how you help negotiate, how you help win in multiple offer situations?
Yeah, so again, I'll point back to the connection that I have with lenders and why I refer the lenders that I do, because when it comes time to negotiate, it's me and the money guy working together to provide the best offer to the seller on your behalf as a buyer, right? So negotiation really starts, like I said, with that first call to the listing agent, whether it's before or after the showing. It's, hey, we really love the place. Can you tell me more details about it? And I just create the relationship, right? If you create a good relationship with the other side, then it will help them give you what you want.
Absolutely. Okay. Multiple offer situation. Mm-hmm. Your buyers really want the place. Okay. They love it. This is their home. They see themselves and their dog in the backyard. This is the one. Yep. But there's 4 other people that want this home. Okay. They are allowing for a pre-inspection. Okay. Good. What is your best advice when the seller or the listing agent says, hey, we have 2 other offers that have waived financing, waived appraisal? How do you now, because we're seeing this a lot again, we're starting to see this come back into the market. We saw it a lot in 2020 and 2021. How do you educate your home buyers on the fact that you may need to remove certain contingencies like inspection and like financing? How do you go about doing that?
So this is when I really lean on the experience that I've had. If we're going through something, a pre-inspection that the seller has done, whether the seller or the buyer has done it, I'll be able to go and walk through that, hold your hand, and determine what's a big deal versus what's not a big deal. So inspection, if it looks good, I hope you feel comfortable about it. And if it doesn't look good, then we can discuss that point too. But I want to make sure you have, again, as much information as you possibly can. So that's through inspection. With financing, again, this is why we want to get underwritten pre-approvals, right? Because when you're underwritten and pre-approved, you're about 95% confident that you're going to get your financing and there should be no hiccups. So in that case, why don't we waive the financing? If it helps us compete, that's kind of a no-brainer to me, as long as you know where you're at. Regarding appraisal, this is where I really do the groundwork and I really have the conversations with agents in the market who have listed, pended, or have active inventory, because that will help us tell the story about what the house will appraise for. So if I come back after that research and find, look, this house will appraise, I'm confident it'll appraise on what the value is that we agreed at, let's go ahead and waive that. That's totally fine. Yeah. So it's just a matter of confidence and information.
I love that. And one of the things that we do as a mortgage lender, which I think is really important, and real estate agents value this, and so do first-time homebuyers. I learned this back in 2020 and 2021, where we were having to escalate $100,000, $200,000 over ask price. And there were some situations where the buyers were like, listen, this house is listed at 900 and we got it for 1.1. There's no way it's going to appraise at 1.1. They knew that. So what I started to do is build, I called it an appraisal gap strategy. So if the appraisal comes in low, this is how we can rework your financing. And what we do is we address this up front. And I'm finding myself doing this again, Tyler, in this market where, again, just over the weekend, client pre-approved 850-ish. House was listed at 7, and I think it went for over 850. But they had to waive their financing. They had to waive they did a pre-inspection. So basically, I'm going to table the financing part of it and go to the inspection real quick. The old way, you would pay for an inspection. You would meet with the inspector or maybe even be present, right? Yeah. And then go over the inspection report with the inspector or your agent. But you'd have a report. And then you could be like, well, based off of this report, I don't want to buy the house. Or based off of this report, Tyler, let's go back and ask the seller to fix X, Y, and Z. Right. The new norm is, hey, the seller might go out and pay for an inspection, have it for everyone to view so that you know as a buyer, this is what you're buying. Yep. But there's no negotiating it. You're just crystal clear on what you're buying. Exactly. And then if you want to proceed knowing that the home is in this particular shape, here's the inspection report, go forward with your best offer, but you're not going to negotiate it. Right. So if you know that and you still are moving forward and you're being asked to remove your financing, financing is one part of it, but when you remove the appraisal portion of it, you're now saying that no matter what, with my earnest money on the table, I'm going to move forward and figure out a way to buy this home. So, for example, if you're approved up to 850, but your offer is for, let's just say 850 and it appraises for 8, what do? Do you have to write a check for $50,000, that $50,000 gap? No. This particular client that I was working with over the weekend, they were putting 10% down. So what we did is with that appraisal gap strategy, we ended up putting 5% down. We put less money down, reworked it, so their cash to close stayed the same, but they were just financing a little bit more instead of the 10% down or 80 or 90% loan to value. They were at a 95% loan to value. So there's ways that we can help mitigate that. But like what Tyler was saying, the education and the advice up front on if this, then that is so important.
Yeah, no, exactly. And again, it'll just give you clarity and peace of mind on when you're faced with those tough decisions, because like you said in the beginning, this is an emotional roller coaster, right? Of when you go and look at homes, you find one you want, you're excited. Boom, there's 4 other offers, you're less excited. Oh, we won. Now we're more excited. Yeah. Oh, now the appraisal comes back less than value, we're less excited. So keeping you in line with what you already know to be true based on your pre-approval and based on the cash that you have, and again, restructuring that deal to make it work is something that's worked.
Well, let's touch on this real quick, the emotional side of buying a home. You're right. From up front to, oh my gosh, we're so excited. We get to move out of our little 2-bedroom apartment into a house that has a backyard for our puppy and, for us to start our lives together. It's going to have an extra bedroom that, when you do get to work from home, you can turn that into your little office until little Maggie arrives or whatever. All those positive emotions to you go and you meet with a lender and the lender gets you your budget and you're like, oh my God, because rates are so high, we only qualify for X, or that $700,000 home is going to be X number of dollars a month. And now you're a little bit down, but you're going to make it work. And then you go out and you write offers on homes and you get beat out. So you're these ups and these downs. Let's talk about the emotions. What do you do to kind of help mitigate the emotional roller coaster?
So I always go back to that main why, right? The main reason why you're doing this in the first place. Because when emotions are high, it's great, and you ride it, and I love to get excited with my clients and help them be excited as well. But when things aren't going so well, it's up to me to be the calm in the storm, say, hey, look, this is why we're doing this in the first place. This still matters to you, so let's move forward and get past this.
Yeah, I think that's so important, and you're so right on with the whole emotional side of it. The thing that you always have to remember with real estate is, one, there's plenty of homes out there, okay? Yes, there is the perfect home, or, oh my gosh, this is the one. But if there's one thing that I've learned from 2020 and 2021, that anytime, and I've learned this just in money and investing in general, anytime you make an emotional purchase, most of the times it's not the best financial decision. We saw a lot of emotional home buying in 20 and 21 because of the scarcity factor. Oh my gosh, rates are at 3%. And we can afford this house, we can buy this house. But in order to buy it, you had to waive the inspection, you had to waive the appraisal, you had to waive the financing. You had to look the other way on the bad roof or the broken windows or the water damage that happened from the previous owner in the cellar, right, or in the basement. Yeah. You know, and I think sometimes that can get the best of you financially. And so my best advice moving forward, if you're a first-time home buyer in this market, is understand the power of perspective. So let's learn something from 2020 and 2021. Let's learn that, hey, a lot of my clients and friends and great clients of mine bought homes in 2020 and 2021. If you were to survey them, you were to talk to them, what are some of the great things that they found in buying a home, and what are some of the things that they regret or wish they could have done differently in buying those homes? And I think a lot of it wouldn't have been escalating. It would have been maybe looking the other way on certain things, maybe been a little bit more picky, right? Yeah. You have that opportunity right now as a home buyer, don't you?
No, absolutely. And it's something where we're seeing buyers that have gotten used to the rate increase and buyers that have the capital to still buy a house have the opportunity to be more picky, right? And unless you see a house that's listed severely under market value, this just happened in Bellevue. The market value is about $1 million, and they listed it at $800,000. So of course that one's going crazy, multiple offers all day long. But if you find a house where the seller is more close to the market value, you can be a little more picky. So again, this is why we dive really deep into things like days on market, how many offers they've had, if they've gone pending and then come back to the market. That screams opportunity for a buyer.
Absolutely. Okay, 2 final questions. Yeah. Simple and short. Buyer calls you up, says, hey, appreciate you sending me over to get approved. Appreciate you doing a buyer's consult with me. Everything's good. I just think that we're going to wait until rates drop we're going to wait for rates to drop before we buy. We think it's in our best interest financially to do that.
Okay.
What would you say to that?
I'm actually going to ask you a question first. I'm going to say, do you think that there's anyone else in the market that feels like you do? Honestly.
Oh, yeah. I think everyone feels that way.
Okay. So if everybody feels that way, Dan, then what do you expect to happen once those rates do drop to all those people?
Everyone's going to feel the opposite. Yeah.
So you can understand that when everyone else feels the opposite and takes advantage of the rate drop, just like you want to do, don't you see multiple offers happening in that situation?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my suggestion from that point of view would be, let's keep our eyes on the market. We always encourage buyers to be in the market rather than trying to time it, right? So when we say being in the market, from buyer's perspective, there's really no need to spend money to be in the market. You can look on your phone, you can scroll through listings. That is essentially being in the market and keeping an eye on what works for you versus waiting and completely taking a time off of doing that and waiting and hoping that it'll be better in the future.
Tyler just went total Warren Buffett on us. That's a Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett says the same thing relative to, when everyone's going in and buying and everyone's going in and selling, do the opposite. Yeah. Because fear most of the time is driving that. That's great advice. I couldn't have said it better. All right, one last question. Yeah. And I do this with every single show. We're going on a road trip, my friend. Yep. Okay?
Let's go.
We're popping by a mini mart. What are you grabbing? We're about a 2.5, 3 hour road trip. What are you grabbing to drink and what are you grabbing to eat?
Okay, well, I'll give you two answers, Dan. I'm a health nut, so I'm going to grab a protein bar and a water. Okay. That's going to be my first inclination.
Okay. What kind of protein bar? What's your favorite?
Quest protein bar, chocolate chip.
Quest clean, I like it.
And then if we're being a little bit less healthy and it's more of a fun trip, we're going to grab a Red Bull and probably something spicy, whether it's spicy beef jerky or Takis, Cheetos, anything spicy.
I love it. Yeah. All right, sounds like a fun diet, fun road trip snack. All right, so what's the best way? Someone's watching this, they're thinking about buying in the next year. What's the best way to reach out to you? I know you create some really good content on social media, so give us the best way to reach out to you.
Yeah, I try to keep people informed on social media, tylermorgan.re, so with an @ in front of it, of course. The other best way is phone and email. So my phone's always in my hand or in my pocket. It's 509-993-3408, or you can find me at tyler.morgan@compass.com.
I love it. Tons of great information, you guys. This is a great time to buy a house if you're a first-time home buyer. I'm telling you, I have not seen a market like this since about 2012, 2013 that has been so first-time home buyer friendly. So I want to encourage you to sit down with someone like myself, someone like Tyler, get your finances in order, and get out there while other people are on the sidelines waiting so that you can beat them to the finish line when rates drop. So hope this was helpful. If you need anything, reach out. But until next time, take care.